Michael J. Fox, 64, unexpectedly fell into the chilly tiled floor of his Manhattan apartment kitchen one morning. The man who once thought he could conquer any obstacle had to crawl inch by inch to get to his phone and make a help call in a matter of seconds. And at that very moment, Michael came to terms with a reality that he had been attempting to ignore for almost 30 music years. Michael J. Fox was at the height of his career at the age of 29. Parkinson's disease, a diagnosis that may ruin everything, was given by doctors. They claimed that no one could overcome the condition, that it would never go away, and that it would progressively take away his capacity to move. Michael, though, would not accept it. He thought he would be the exception. Michael battled the illness with hope and remarkable determination for over 30 years. Millions of people were inspired by him as he continued to work. But that morning, as he lay on the kitchen floor, Michael realized that this fight had never really been over. Following that incident, Michael J. Fox made the decision to expose previously unseen aspects. The thing that shocked a lot of people was not what Parkinson's had done to his physically, but rather what it had silently taken away from his life. So what actually transpired behind the upbeat grin that Michael J. Fox had displayed to the public for over 30 years? The unwell man was once one of the most promising young stars in Hollywood. The fourth of his family's 5 children, Michael Andrew Fox was born in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, on June 9, 1961, music. Because his father William was in the Canadian military, the family had to move around a lot throughout his early years. His desire of being a professional ice hockey player abruptly disappeared when he was just 5 years old and 35 feet tall. But when he unintentionally joined a theatrical club in middle school, that very setback paved the way for something else. His theatrical teacher saw his innate skill right away and encouraged him. Music Son Box debuted professionally in the CBC sitcom Leo and Me in 1979 at the age of 17. Inspired by TV personality Art Carney, Fox took a risk. In order to fulfill his aspirational dream of being an actor, he left high school and relocated to Los Angeles. The young Canadian faced many difficulties and obstacles during his early years in Hollywood. Fox endured numerous unsuccessful auditions, small parts, and rejections, even questioning his choice. But in 1982, he made a significant breakthrough when he was cast as Alex P. Heaton in the sitcom Family Ties Music. Matthew Broderick was first offered the part, but Fox ultimately received it. The character, a young conservative son of a liberal family who was usually well-groomed in suits and held different opinions from his parents, made Fox stand out so much that he became the focal point of the show and captured the attention of the audience. In addition to becoming the largest television star of the era during his 7 years on Family Ties, 1982-1989, Michael J. Fox earned 3 Emmy Awards and a Golden Globe for his exceptional performance. His future wife, actress Tracy Pollan, music, who portrayed his on-screen girlfriend, was also introduced to him on the show. Fox became one of the most adored faces on television at the height of his success, receiving thousands of admirer messages every week. Fox earned the most pivotal role of his career as Marty McFly in the 1985 smash Back to the Future, although he was still preoccupied with family matters. Robert Zemeckis, the director, initially selected him, but his hectic filming schedule nearly cost him the chance, so Eric Stoltz was cast first and then replaced. Fox's demanding work schedule during this time became music legendary, and a special arrangement was made to allow him to juggle both projects. To keep up with the movie and the sitcom, Michael put in 20 hours a day, 6 days a week. That tremendous work and sacrifice paid off. Back to the Future became a global movie office hit in 1985. Marty McFly, music, became a cultural figure with his skateboard and red puffer vest. Michael J. Fox went from being a television star to a worldwide youth idol that same year, Because to the enormous popularity of Teen Wolf. His career peaked in the late 1980s and early 1990s. Michael frequently starred in popular movies including Doc Hollywood, Bright Lights, Big City, The Secret of My Success, and Casualties of War. With fame, fortune, and prestige that many could only imagine, he rose to become one of Hollywood's most sought-after actors. During a period when everyone in Hollywood was envious of music, Michael J. Fox's life, his successful profession, his devoted wife, and his seemingly music-ideal future, a terrible reality subtly surfaced and permanently altered his life. When Michael J. Fox was 29 years old and at the pinnacle of his career with Back to the Future and Family Ties, it all started in November 1990. He observed his pinky finger trembling excessively when he woke up from a night of heavy drinking with music co-star Woody Harrelson while filming Doc Hollywood. He initially believed it to be the music after effects of a severe hangover. However, the tremor persisted. After seeing a neurologist in 1991, he received a diagnosis of early-onset Parkinson's disease, a rare degenerative neurological condition. For someone at the height of their career, the doctor's words, early onset, progressive, degenerative, incurable, extremely unusual, music, sounded like a death sentence. He started to understand at that point that the illness he had been diagnosed with was not something a young celebrity at the pinnacle of his career had ever anticipated dealing with. Michael J. Fox, however, decided to persevere despite the fact that fate had given him an almost impossible battle. Millions of people worldwide were later inspired by that resilient trek. When Michael J. Fox got the diagnosis that completely altered his life, he was just 29 years old. Parkinson's illness usually affects the elderly. Therefore, it was very uncommon for a young star at the height of his career to improve. He was sternly informed by the doctors that there was no treatment. There would just be the inevitable advancement of the illness at the end of the journey. No victory. Michael, however, was unable to accept that. He was determined to keep the truth from the world and refused to accept that his fate had already been predetermined. After that, Michael had two separate lives for years. He continued to be vivacious, funny, and full of life in public. Behind the scenes, he worked non-stop to manage his illness's increasingly obvious symptoms. To conceal his trembling hands, he picked up little music tricks. He frequently shifted his stance or gripped objects to keep his body temporarily stable. In reality, these seemingly unthinking motions were a silent struggle that went unnoticed. It is astounding that Michael continued to act constantly for 7 years following his diagnosis. He performed action sequences, ran, jumped, and worked at the same level of intensity as music previously. Viewers were unaware of what was taking place. Many co-workers were unaware that he had a severe degenerative neurological illness. Michael said, "Because I didn't want them to know," in response to the question of why others didn't notice. Despite this, he continued to play in front of thousands of people every week as if nothing was wrong. But computations were always going on inside his head. When was the last time he took his medicine? How much time does it take to wear off? What would happen if symptoms surfaced during a live performance or a lengthy take? He was often anxious. Every minute, every hour, it followed him, making every workday a stressful mental struggle. He had to hold props to cover up his shaking hand while filming Spin City, and he was always concerned that the studio audience would notice his symptoms. In addition to the tremors, he experienced physical discomfort from recurrent injuries brought on by unsteadiness. Sometimes he would get so angry and depressed that he would punch holes in walls. In his worst hours, he felt imprisoned in a body that was gradually betraying him, and thought, "There's no way out of this." Michael persisted in devoting himself to his work in spite of his wife Tracy Pollan's worries. In order to keep himself from worrying about his condition, he continued to take on new projects, spend months apart from his family, and keep himself occupied. But the more he ran, the more worn out he was. He had to contort his body into uncomfortable positions in order to conceal his tremors. He frequently made excuses to avoid family dinners, and his appetite all but vanished. He thought that if he didn't think about Parkinson's, the illness wouldn't be able to affect him. However, it was not how reality operated. Fox's only way out of his dread and misery was to turn to booze. For a year following his diagnosis, he started drinking by himself every day. Alcohol bottles became quiet companions that helped him momentarily forget the nightmare that was gradually ruining his body. Fox acknowledged that drinking was the only way he knew to avoid reality, and that he had never experienced such fear in his life. He started acting in a deliberate and reclusive manner. According to Tracy Pollan, his wife, he would advise that they open a bottle of wine, take it into the kitchen, fast drink another until the levels matched, and then bring it back to pour for her so she wouldn't know how much he had actually drunk. In addition to abusing alcohol, Fox also misused the dopamine prescription that was supplied to him in order to manage his symptoms. He took the drug as a means of hiding his sickness rather than taking it as prescribed. Fox claimed to have been an expert at modifying the dosage so he could peak at